Okay, do you remember yesterday we had a look at this book, Eddie Elephant and the Forest Fire? And that also featured Golden Girl as well. So we looked at three letters, E, F and G. And at the end of the session, I read you a small passage and asked you to look out for some words that began with the E, with a F sound. And I reckon that there were 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was Eddie, there was elephant, there was empty, expression, face, and effort. So if you've got all of those words, well done. And I can imagine some of them pretty tricky to spell, but well done if you managed to get all 6. Okay? So the next letter we're going to be looking at then in that case is going to be H, isn't it? Because we've done A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Next one is H. Okay? The Hairy Hat Man's house. Harry was a little boy who loved hats. Little hats, big hats, tall hats and short hats. Anything he could put on his head made him happy. As he grew older, collecting hats became his hobby. Soon he had nearly 100 hats. When Harry became a man, he still loved hats. So one day he started a hat shop in the little house where he lived halfway up the hill. Lots of people came to buy hats from his hat shop. They could buy any hat they wanted except one. That was because one of Harry's hats was not for sale. It was his favourite hat, a green, rather hairy hat. He had made it himself and he wore it all the time. Soon people stopped calling him Harry. They always called him the Hairy Hat Man instead. The Hairy Hat Man lived happily in his little house until one evening there was a great storm in Letterland. The wind blew hard and the rain poured down. The storm was still raging when he went to bed. When he woke up in the next morning, the poor Hat Man had a terrible shock. Heavens, he cried, the wind has blown a hole in my roof. Now all my hats are soaked. He carried the dripping hats outside and hung them on the line to dry. He felt very, very unhappy. Henry, he said to his horse, where will I get the money to buy a new roof? Oh, you'll just have to sell more hats, said Henry. But how? Asked the Hairy Hat Man. It's a long walk up the hill to my hat shop. I can't make the hill any shorter now, can I? You could take the hats down the hill and sell them in the market, said Henry. How will I ever carry all of them? Asked the Hairy Hat Man. By horse? Suggested Henry, smiling. What a good idea, cried Harry. As soon as his hats were dry, the Hairy Hat Man harnessed Henry to a cart and loaded it high with hats. Together they set off down the hill. In the marketplace it was very busy. The Hairy Hat Man stopped the cart to give Henry some hay. Soon lots of people had gathered around to buy hats. It was hot work, but the Hat Man and Henry hoped to sell enough hats to pay for a new roof before it rained again. Every day they worked in the marketplace. They sold so many hats that soon the people had all the hats they needed, but the Hat Man still did not have enough money for a new roof. It's hopeless, he said to his horse. I don't know what to do now, Henry. Henry's ears twitched as he tried to think. I can't think in this hot sun, he said. Please make me a sun hat. What a good idea, said Harry. So straight away he made a large sun hat for Henry, with 2 holes in just the right places for his ears. Soon all the other horses in Letterland heard about Henry's hat. They wanted to buy sun hats too. The next day Bouncy Ben came along and asked, Can you make me a special baseball cap? I'll be happy to, said the Hairy Hat Man. So he made a special baseball cap for Bouncy Ben, with 2 holes in just the right places for his ears. When Bouncy Ben's brothers saw his baseball cap, they all wanted one just like it. So the Hat Man made special caps for them too. The next day, Clever Cat came along. She liked Henry's hat very much. "Can you make me a special hat?" she asked. "Of course," said the Hat Man. So he made a special cat hat for her with 2 holes in just the right places for her ears. When Clever Cat's cousins saw her special hat, they all wanted to buy one too, so Harry made lots more. Soon the Hairy Hat Man had made a special hat for almost every animal in Letterland, but he still did not have enough money for a new roof. "Henry," he said to his horse one day, "there is still only enough money for half a roof. We shall never have enough before it rains again. Now what shall we do?" Henry's ears twitched in their hat holes as he thought. Then he had an idea. "If you can make sun hats for heads," he said, "why can't you make rain hats for your house?" "Of course," cried the Hairy Hat Man, hopping up and down with excitement. "I could make a huge rain hat. If I make it myself, it won't cost very much at all." That very same day, he started to make a special hat for his house. It was huge, and it had 2 holes in just the right places for his chimneys. When it was finished, his Letterland friends helped to put the new hat on his house. At last, the Hairy Hat Man was happy again. Now it didn't matter if it rained, his house had a new roof. "Everyone likes my new roof, don't they, Henry?" he said to his horse. Henry smiled. "That's because it looks like your favourite hat," said Henry. The Hairy Hat Man looked at his new roof again. "It does rather, doesn't it?" he said, smiling happily. The end. Well done, Henry, for coming up with that idea. That was a really good idea. And they managed to get it all done before it rained. So, whew, good on him. Now, if you notice, I didn't sing the ABC song today because I think we've done that. We'll have a little rest from that song. And tomorrow, I thought I'm going to sing a different song, which I think a lot of you know, about 5 green speckled frogs. So, what I want you to do, as well as bringing your paper and pencils, because I'm going to read you a section in a minute for you to write some words, I want you to bring 5 objects that you can pretend to be your frogs. So when we sing the song and the first frog jumps into the pond, you can take that one and put it, you can maybe make a special pond or a cup or a bowl for him to jump into, because this is like doing takeaways, isn't it? 5 takeaway, 1 is going to be 4. So you'll have 4, whatever's left. And we'll sing that song. It's a fun song. Now, pencils and paper ready? There's a little bit in here where I want you to copy down. It's not that bit. This is a bit. Any words that you hear me read that start with a sound. The Hairy Hat Man lived happily in his little house until one evening there was a great storm in Letterland. The wind blew hard and the rain poured down. The storm was still raging when he went to bed. When he woke up in the morning, the poor Hat Man had a terrible shock. Okay, did you write them all down? Tricky. So, that's the end of that story. Time for me, Mr. C, to say goodbye. See you tomorrow. Bye.